Tony Kent, and this is episode 14 of Tony Kent Writes and Chats. It's the 4th of May. It is day, God knows what, of the lockdown. Who knows how long we've all been here, and who knows how long we will all still be here. It is, must be 8 weeks now since I've really been able to leave the house or left the house for anything more than just a stamp or a newspaper. But yes, this is where we are. We're back. We're episode 14, and yes, still stuck at home. So, last time I spoke to you, we were talking about action scenes. We were also talking about my reaction to certain reviews, and I've obviously shown the video to my wife and other people online. There's some suggestion I may have gone slightly too far. I disagree entirely. I think I didn't go far enough, and I think that I will be maybe looking at some reviews, some specific reviews, and just reviews generally in an episode in the next few days, because I think they'd be quite interesting and could be quite funny. There have been a lot of reviews coming in for Power Play. I think we're on to 65 reviews now on Amazon, which I'm very happy with. Please, if you have read it and if you liked it, then please do, and haven't reviewed it, please do. It makes a huge difference for books to be reviewed on Amazon. If you didn't like it or you thought it was mediocre, well, just stay away from Amazon. There's no need to get involved. Leave it to the guys that loved it. I mean, I really appreciate that. It does make a big difference. There is an algorithm. I think you may have seen the video that I put out about this, a very short snippet video I put out on Twitter and Facebook on the very subject. So yes, we'll probably do a review show moving forward because it's quite a funny subject. But today I want to do a show that I think is much more focused on what we've been, on what the whole point of this is. Because as you know, the whole point is, we're documenting the writing of book 4 and how you can write a book from scratch. And in the last couple of days, and certainly today, there has been quite a big evolution of the idea. So I thought that a little chat about how ideas can evolve would be worthwhile. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the plot, which I've not done before, which I said I wasn't going to do. It's not going to be a lot. I'm not going to tell you too much, but just to give you just something. And it's going to be this. The plot for book 4, actually, before I go any further down that route, I should say, I've given book 4 a working title. I told you that 2 episodes ago. In the time between those 2 episodes, Greg Hurwitz has basically taken that title and given it to his next instalment of the Orphan X series. And since they're not a million miles apart in terms of genre, I think I probably shouldn't stick with the working title. So his new book is going to be called Prodigal Son, and my working title for book 4 had become Prodigal. I will still stick with it as a working title. I may start calling it that in these interviews. In these episodes. It won't be the name of the book. No chance at all. I mean, that would be madness. But Prodigal was going to be the working title. That's the working title that I referred to a couple of days ago. Anyway, book 4, I was saying, evolution of the idea. When I first sat down with this laptop on this screen and we had the one-line idea, that one-line idea involved a terrorist group. I'm not going to tell you what they're up to. I'm not going to tell you what Dempsey is doing with them. But it involved a terrorist group. And at the time, it was going to be an Islamic terrorist group. I've got 4 books. I'm 4 books in now before I've got really to actual terrorism as opposed to fake terrorism. And I thought at the time, well, terrorism these days, without being controversial, it's the natural inclination to say, well, Islamic terrorism, in its classic form, it's kind of what you'd certainly place your money on that rather than something else, rather than it being the IRA these days. So I thought, yeah, okay, we'll go down that route. And in my mind, that's what we're going to do. It's going to be Islamic terrorism, and they were going to be the guys behind the plot that Dempsey is pursuing. In the last week or 2, that's changed because the evolution of the idea has reached a point where it makes a lot more sense for them to be American terrorists. And funnily enough, I tweeted about this the other day because I decided that it's going to be something to do with the Patriot movement, the kind of reclaim America from the federal government movement of madness that is going on in America. These guys who've got their massive cache of guns and they're all holed up in survivalist states and they don't want the American government to be running America or to be running the states, etc., etc. I don't know if anyone watches Parks and Recreation, but it's basically Ron Swanson times 1,000. So I decided that they were interesting. They're very interesting. I know where I want the book to end, and that all sort of tied in. And I know my twists and turns with the groups, and that all ties in as well. So I decided I'd look into the Patriot movement. When I was doing that, of course, members of the Patriot movement decided to storm, it's been reported as storming, it's not really, but effectively storm a government building in a state in America, in Alabama possibly, or is it Atlanta, demanding the overturn of the lockdown, all armed in government buildings, and it's completely insane. And I remember looking at that thinking, this can't have happened again. I mean, book 3, Power Play, is all about the crooked president coincided with Trump. Book 4, I had to wash my hands of it because it was the pandemic. And then the moment I go onto the Patriot movement, suddenly the Patriot movement is invading governors' houses in America. So I had a moment of, oh God, not again. But then I thought, no, we're going to go with this. We're not changing. This is just a little blip. This is just the news. So we're going with this. So the Patriot movement, we're very heavily involved in book 4. And of course, Dempsey is working for the UN. Why would the UN be interested in the Patriot movement, which is a particularly American thing? And I've worked that out. I've worked out how to do that, why there would be that involvement. And I've worked out how we bring in other characters who are very, very key characters to this plot. People we may not have seen for a while, people we might want to see again. So that's how the kind of idea evolves. But as that idea was evolving, so too was the sort of connotations of COVID-19, because we are living this. Said at the outset of this recording, God knows how many days we've been in, and it's impossible, isn't it, now to consider that anyone based around the modern times or the next 18 months would not be referencing in some way or another this most unusual time of our civilization. And so, much as I was wanting to avoid anything like COVID-19 or coronavirus references, it's now kind of organically grown its way into the plot in the way that, as I say, the evolution of an idea. I didn't get set out to do this at all. And yet it occurs to me that the Patriot movement, which is a dying thing, or has been a dying thing in America, the resurgence that we've seen in the news, the thing that made me worry about including it in the book at all, or the resurgence that we've seen in the news, is caused by COVID-19. It's caused by the measures that have had to be taken by the federal government to combat COVID-19. And the reaction has been terrible. Well, imagine if we had a proper president in America. Imagine if the White House didn't have an orange lunatic in there who was claiming there's nothing wrong. If you had John Knowles, our president from Power Play, in the White House, well then he would probably have to take even stricter measures to be effective than have been taken by Trump. Much stricter. And the reaction will probably be much greater, which coincides with the idea that perhaps the Patriot movement, in response to those kinds of measures, would be even more angry, even more vocal, even more militant. And so all of this has evolved as I've been writing, and we've got to a point now where it's the right terrorists, I feel, for the group, but also it's bringing in the real life, it's bringing in the real world. Now, I obviously write in a parallel universe. There is no Trump, there was no Obama, there was no Bush. I write in this little parallel world. But there are obviously going to be overlaps, and there's no reason why that parallel world can't have a virus at the same time as our world. And it will be dealt with differently. We've got a better president for a start. And interestingly, when you look at it, it's just very, very interesting the way that these ideas evolve. And I don't think it's a fascinating thing. I, for one, am completely fascinated by what's come out as I've been prepping this, as I've been writing this and preparing this. I've been fairly amazed by what's come out and how it's connected to the modern day and how it's connected to what's happening to us all now, even though I absolutely did not set out to do that. And as I say, I thought that would be something that it would be very interesting to share with you, because the evolution of an idea is exactly what we're here to talk about, really, isn't it? And I think there's no better example of that evolution than I've gone down a route. I said one line that basically was, well, there's something happening and behind it are these Islamic terrorists. And we're now this far down the line, we're still not far past 100 pages, and we're dealing with entirely different terrorists, and we're dealing with a real world motivation for them that everyone can connect to. And I, for one, find that fascinating. I, for one, find that as one of the greatest things about being able to sit down and write, and I thought that you might find it interesting too. So that's it for today. I have arranged, as I said on the last occasion, a huge amount of interviews that I'm going to start uploading in the next week. I'm going to be doing a lot of them at the end of this week. I'll then start uploading them. There'll be a slightly different format to this. It will be a split screen, etc. But hopefully you'll enjoy those. There'll be a lot of authors that you'll have heard of. Maybe some you haven't heard of, but that you'll start reading as a result of the interviews, and it will be interesting. But I will also keep up with this, and I will also try to return as soon as I can to my recommends episodes as well. In the meantime, please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also please do get involved in the comments. It would be great to have a few more questions so I can give you a few more answers. I will see you tomorrow or the next day. Thank you.